The silent invasion. In the depths of the Andromeda Arm, the Mera 7 research station hung motionless against the backdrop of dying stars. Dr. Seneval, chief xenophysicist of the Corellian Science Authority, stared at her readings with mounting dread. Another star system had gone dark, the third this cycle. "It's accelerating," she whispered, her 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display. The energy signatures were unmistakable. Whatever was consuming these stars wasn't natural. It moved with purpose, with intelligence. The station's warning systems flared to life, bathing the laboratory in crimson light. Senna's assistant, Krell, burst through the doorway, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the emergency beacons. "Doctor, we're detecting anomalous readings from the Helios cluster," he reported, voice modulator crackling with static. "The quantum variance. It's unlike anything in our databases." Senna accessed the live feed. The Helios cluster, once a vibrant collection of 12 star systems, was being systematically dimmed. Energy levels were dropping at an impossible rate, leaving behind cold, lifeless husks of once-burning stars. "Alert the Galactic Council," she ordered. "Priority Alpha. And get me a direct link to Archive Station Beta." The Corellian Science Authority had monitored the galaxy for over 10,000 cycles. They had witnessed supernovas, tracked quantum storms, and catalogued countless species. But this was different. This was extinction level. Within hours, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The Taraxian Empire lost contact with its outer colonies. The Jur Collective reported massive energy fluctuations across their territory. The ancient Meridian trading routes fell silent one by one. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, but it was already too late. Whatever these entities were, these energy vampires, they moved faster than any known form of propulsion. They left no traces, no signatures, nothing but cold, dead stars in their wake. The great civilizations of the galaxy, for all their advanced technology and combined might, found themselves helpless. Their energy weapons passed harmlessly through the entities. Their shields offered no protection. Their fastest ships couldn't escape. Senna worked tirelessly, analyzing data, searching for patterns. The entities seemed to ignore certain regions of space, but she couldn't determine why. Some star systems remained untouched, while others were completely drained. There had to be a reason. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A routine scan of supposedly empty space revealed something extraordinary: a small, isolated solar system, unmarked on any official star charts. It lay in a region the entities actively avoided. "This can't be right," Krell said, rechecking the readings. "According to these scans, that system should have been consumed cycles ago. It's right in the middle of a high-activity zone." Senna enhanced the scan. The system was unremarkable. A yellow dwarf star with 8 planets, only one showing signs of advanced civilization. But something about it was different. The energy signature was unlike anything she'd ever seen. "Cross-reference this with the historical archives," she commanded. The computer churned through millions of records before finding a match. Senna's heart nearly stopped when she saw the result. Earth. The forbidden world. The planet that had been quarantined by mutual agreement of all galactic powers over 1,000 cycles ago. Home to a species so unpredictable, so dangerous, that isolation had been deemed the only safe option. Humans. The quarantine had been so effective that most modern species considered humans a myth, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked advancement. But they were very real, and they were still there, still thriving. And somehow, they had what the rest of the galaxy desperately needed: immunity to the energy vampires. Senna made her decision. Breaking the quarantine was punishable by death, but extinction made such laws meaningless. She began preparing a transmission, the first official contact with Earth in over 1,000 years. As she worked, more stars winked out across the galaxy. The entities were closing in on the Corellian home system. Time was running out. Everything would depend on whether humanity had changed during their isolation, and whether they would be willing to help the very civilizations that had abandoned them. The transmission was simple. To the people of Earth, we need your help. The galaxy is dying. As the message traveled through space, Senna could only hope it would reach Earth in time. The future of all known species now rested on the shoulders of the galaxy's most infamous outcasts. The irony was not lost on her. In her final log entry, she wrote, "We isolated humanity because we feared their potential for destruction. Now, that same potential may be our only hope for survival." The entities continued their relentless advance, consuming star after star. But for the first time since the crisis began, there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity was about to re-enter the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same. The last bastion. From their orbital defense platform, Commander Sarah Chen watched Earth's quantum shield ripple like liquid mercury against the dark canvas of space. The technology that had kept humanity isolated for a millennium was their greatest achievement, and their heaviest burden. The quantum shield didn't just protect Earth, it fundamentally altered the fabric of local space-time. Any hostile force that tried to penetrate it would find themselves caught in an endless loop of probability cascades. It was the perfect defense, but it had come at the cost of humanity's place in the galactic community. "Commander, we're picking up an anomalous transmission," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station. "It's using ancient Galactic Council protocols." Sarah's eyes narrowed. No one had used those protocols since the quarantine began. "Origin? The Corellian Science Authority, Ma'am. It's a distress signal." The command center fell silent. The Corellians had been the strongest advocates for humanity's isolation. For them to break the quarantine meant something catastrophic was happening. Sarah accessed the quantum archives, reviewing the data they'd been gathering. The shield didn't just protect Earth, it observed. For centuries, they had watched the galaxy through quantum entanglement, monitoring the civilizations that had cast them out. The data was troubling. Vast regions of space had gone dark. Energy signatures of entire civilizations had vanished. Something was consuming the galaxy, methodically and relentlessly. "Play the transmission," Sarah ordered. As the desperate message echoed through the command center, Sarah thought about the irony of the situation. Humanity hadn't been idle during their isolation. They had evolved, developed technologies that merged quantum mechanics with human consciousness. The shield wasn't just a barrier, it was an extension of human will. The Joint Earth Defense Council convened within hours. Representatives from every major nation gathered in the underwater city of New Atlantis, their neural interfaces connecting them to humanity's shared quantum network. The entities are drawn to standard energy signatures. Dr. James Wong, head of quantum research, explained, "Our shield works because it exists in a state of quantum uncertainty. We're essentially invisible to them." "Can the technology be adapted for other species?" asked Counselor Patel. "Theoretically, yes, but it would require direct neural interfaces. The quantum field must be shaped by consciousness to remain stable." The implications were clear. To save the galaxy, humanity would need to share their most closely guarded secrets. The very technology that had led to their quarantine would have to be given to those who had feared it. Sarah listened to the debates, watching the quantum projections of possible futures shift and swirl above the council table. Each projection showed the same outcome. Without intervention, the galaxy would be dead within a year. "We have to help them," she finally said, her voice cutting through the arguments. "Not because they deserve it, but because it's the right thing to do." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some argued for maintaining isolation, others for conditional aid. But Sarah knew the truth. Humanity had outgrown its fear of the galaxy. They were ready to return. The decision was made. Earth would answer the call. Within days, the quantum shield began to pulse with new patterns. Using the shield itself as a transmitter, they sent their response across the galaxy. "We hear you. We're coming." Preparation began immediately. The orbital shipyards, hidden behind the quantum shield for centuries, activated their production arrays. New vessels emerged, each equipped with miniaturized quantum shields and neural interface systems. Sarah stood in the observation deck of the flagship, Independence, watching Earth's cities gleam below. The quantum shield that had been their prison was now their greatest weapon against an enemy that threatened all life. "Status report," she commanded. "Fleet is at 80% readiness, Commander. Neural interface systems are online and stable. Quantum drives are primed." They had built this fleet in secret, hoping they would never need it. Now it would carry humanity back into a galaxy that had rejected them, to save the very civilizations that had feared them. "Send word to all ships," Sarah ordered. "Operation Starburst begins in 12 hours. We're going to remind the galaxy why they quarantined us in the first place." As the fleet prepared for departure, Sarah remembered the stories of humanity's last days among the stars. They had been called reckless, dangerous, unpredictable. Perhaps those qualities were exactly what the galaxy needed now. The quantum shield rippled one final time, preparing to part for the first time in a millennium. Humanity was about to make history again, not as conquerors or outcasts, but as saviors. And the galaxy would never be the same. First contact redux. The Corellian refugee fleet materialized at the edge of Sol's quantum shield, 300 ships carrying the last survivors of a once mighty civilization. Commander Chen watched their approach from Independence's bridge, noting the energy-skirt hulls and failing systems. "They're running on emergency power," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "Life support at critical levels." Sarah made her decision. Open a quantum corridor. Guide them through safely. The shield parted like a curtain of starlight, creating a safe passage. As the refugee ships limped through, their crews got their first glimpse of Earth in a millennium. The gleaming orbital rings, the massive shipyards, the sprawling lunar colonies. Humanity had not been idle during their isolation. Dr. Seneval, now the last surviving member of the Corellian Science Authority, stood trembling on Independence's observation deck. "You've advanced far beyond our projections," she said, her 4 eyes wide with wonder. "The quantum manipulation, it's impossible." "Not impossible," Sarah replied. "Just improbable. That's the key to fighting these entities." The Corellian scientists shared their data, recordings of the entities' attacks, analysis of their behavior patterns. The creatures existed in a state between dimensions, feeding on energy in all its forms. Traditional defenses were useless because they existed in normal spacetime. "But your quantum shield," Senna observed, "it creates a field of perpetual uncertainty. The entities can't feed on energy they can't definitively locate." The Joint Earth Defense Council convened again, this time with Corellian representatives present. Dr. Wong presented humanity's solution: a network of quantum beacons that could extend Earth's shield technology across the galaxy. "Each beacon creates a bubble of quantum uncertainty," he explained. "The entities will be forced to either retreat to unprotected space or starve." "The neural interfaces," Senna interjected. "Your entire species is connected through quantum entanglement. That's how you maintain such complex fields." Sarah nodded. "We discovered early that technology alone wasn't enough. The quantum fields need consciousness to remain stable. We evolved to merge with our creation." The Corellians struggled with this revelation, the very development that had terrified them centuries ago. Humanity's drive to transcend their biological limitations had created the one weapon that could save the galaxy. "We'll need volunteers," Sarah continued. "People willing to undergo neural interface surgery. The quantum beacons require conscious control." Senna stepped forward. "I volunteer. My people will volunteer. We no longer have the luxury of fear." The next few days were a blur of activity. Human medical teams worked around the clock, installing neural interfaces in Corellian volunteers. The refugees learned to access the quantum network, their alien minds adding new dimensions to humanity's shared consciousness. "The entities are approaching the Vega sector," Rodriguez reported. 3 days until they reached the next inhabited system. Sarah stood on Independence's bridge, watching the quantum beacon prototypes being loaded into the fleet's cargo holds. Each one represented hope, not just for survival, but for redemption. Humanity would return to the galaxy not as conquerors or outcasts, but as guardians. All ships report ready, Rodriguez announced. The Corellian volunteers are integrated into the quantum network. Sarah felt their presence in the back of her mind. Alien thoughts merging with human consciousness, creating something entirely new. Perhaps this was what the galaxy had feared. Humanity's ability to adapt, to change, to transform both themselves and others. Set course for the Vega sector, she ordered. It's time to remind the galaxy who we are. The fleet jumped to quantum space, leaving Earth behind. In the observation deck, Senna watched the stars blur past. We were wrong about humanity, she whispered. We feared your potential for destruction. We should have recognized your potential for salvation. The entities awaited them in the darkness between the stars. But this time, humanity wasn't facing exile. They were facing destiny. And they were not alone. The human solution. The quantum beacon activated with a pulse that rippled through space-time. Sarah watched through both physical eyes and quantum perception as reality twisted around their fleet. In the network, she felt the minds of human and Corellian operators working in perfect sync. Beacon operating at full power, Rodriguez reported. Quantum field stable and expanding. The entities were visible now. Patches of absolute darkness that consumed light and energy. They moved with terrible purpose toward the fleet, drawn by the ship's power signatures. But as they approached the quantum field's edge, they hesitated. They can't lock onto us, Senna observed, her thoughts resonating through the network. The quantum uncertainty is working. The entities probe the field's boundaries, searching for a way in. But the combined consciousness of human and Corellian operators kept the quantum state fluid, unpredictable. What couldn't be defined couldn't be consumed. Launch the secondary beacons, Sarah ordered. Smaller ships detached from the fleet, each carrying a quantum beacon. They moved through space like seeds scattered in the wind, planting nodes of safety in the entity's hunting grounds. Dr. Wong's voice came through the quantum link. Each beacon creates a cascading effect. The fields will merge and expand, creating safe corridors through space. The entities reacted with unexpected violence. They surrounded the quantum fields, pressing against the boundaries, trying to force their way through. The neural network lit up with strain as operators fought to maintain the field's integrity. They're learning, Sarah realized, adapting their attack patterns. Through the quantum link, she accessed the combined knowledge of human and Corellian science. The entities weren't mindless forces. They were intelligent, perhaps even ancient. They had evolved to feed on the energy of an entire galaxy. We need to expand the network, she decided. Not just protect ourselves, but actively push them back. The human fleet split into tactical groups, each escorting Corellian refugee ships to nearby star systems. As they traveled, they deployed more beacons, creating an expanding web of quantum-protected space. But the entities grew more aggressive. They began targeting the beacons themselves, looking for weaknesses in the network. The neural interface operators worked to exhaustion, their minds stretched across vast distances of space. We can't maintain this indefinitely, Senna warned. Even with our combined strength, there are too many of them. Sarah felt the truth of it in the quantum network. They needed something more, not just a shield, but a weapon. She dove deeper into the quantum field, pushing her consciousness to its limits. And there, in the space between thoughts, she found it. The entities exist in a state of quantum certainty, she realized. That's their weakness. They can only feed on energy they can definitively locate and consume. Understanding rippled through the network. They didn't need to destroy the entities. They needed to force them into a state of quantum uncertainty themselves. Reconfigure the beacons, she ordered. Don't just create safe zones. Project the uncertainty outward. The combined knowledge of human and Corellian science flowed through the neural network. Beacon frequencies were adjusted, quantum fields modified. Instead of creating bubbles of safety, they began generating waves of probability that affected everything they touched. The entities recoiled as the first wave hit them. Their perfect darkness began to flicker, their forms becoming indistinct. They could no longer maintain their grip on normal space-time. "Push harder," Sarah commanded through the network. "Don't let them stabilize." The quantum beacons pulsed in harmony, their fields resonating with the combined will of two species. The entities began to fade, their essential nature disrupted by enforced uncertainty. Victory was within reach, but it would require something unprecedented: the complete synchronization of every mind in the neural network, human and Corellian alike. Together, Sarah projected, all of us, one thought, one purpose. The quantum network blazed with unified consciousness. In that moment, there was no distinction between species. They were simply life, standing against the darkness. And the darkness began to retreat. Operation Starbreak. The unified fleet surged forward through quantum space, each ship trailing ribbons of probability. Sarah felt the presence of thousands of minds in the network, human, Corellian, and now representatives from a dozen other species who had joined their cause. Quantum field saturation at 87% across target sectors, Rodriguez reported. The entities are being forced into deeper space. The last stand was taking place in the galactic core, where the entities had gathered their remaining strength. Billions of stars hung in the balance as the fleet prepared for their final push. All ships, synchronize quantum frequencies, Sarah commanded through the network. Prepare for final protocol. The fleet moved in perfect formation, their quantum shields merging into a single vast field of uncertainty. The entities writhed at its edges, their darkness flickering with increasing instability. Dr. Wang's voice resonated through the network. The core stars are showing signs of recovery, energy levels stabilizing in protected sectors. But the entities weren't retreating without a fight. They began to merge, combining their strength into a single massive form that threatened to overwhelm the quantum field through sheer power. "They're adapting again," Senna warned, "trying to achieve critical mass." Sarah felt the strain through the neural interface as operators fought to maintain the field. The merged entity was becoming something new, a singularity of pure entropy that could potentially tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. "All consciousness to the network," she ordered. "Every mind, every thought. We end this now." The quantum field blazed with unified purpose. Human ingenuity merged with Corellian wisdom, enhanced by the unique perspectives of every species in the fleet. In that moment of perfect synchronization, they weren't just sharing thoughts. They were evolving together. The entity struck, its attack rippling through multiple dimensions. But instead of fighting back directly, the fleet executed a maneuver that only linked minds could achieve. They turned their quantum uncertainty inside out. Reality itself seemed to hesitate. The entity, caught in waves of cascading probability, began to lose coherence. Its perfect darkness fractured, splitting into countless possibilities that couldn't all exist simultaneously. "Quantum cascade initiated," Rodriguez announced. Chain reaction spreading through the entity's mass. Sarah felt it through the network, the moment when certainty became impossible. The entity, dependent on absolute states for its existence, began to unravel. "All ships, maintain formation," she commanded. "Push the field to maximum radius." The fleet's combined quantum field expanded one final time, washing over the galactic core like a tide of pure probability. Stars flickered back to life as the entity's hold was broken. Through the neural interface, Sarah witnessed the entity's final moments. It didn't die. Instead, it transformed. Forced into a state of quantum uncertainty, it could no longer maintain its energy-consuming nature. It became something else, something new. Energy readings stabilizing across all sectors, Senna reported with wonder in her voice. "The stars, they're returning to normal." The galaxy had been saved, but that wasn't the most significant outcome. In joining together to face this threat, the various species had created something unprecedented, a true union of minds and consciousness that transcended physical barriers. Sarah stood on Independence's bridge, feeling the thoughts of countless beings flowing through the quantum network. They had done more than defeat an enemy. They had evolved. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Operation Starbreak is complete, but this is just the beginning." The fleet began its journey home, leaving behind a changed galaxy. The quantum beacons remained active, not just as protection against future threats, but as nodes in a new kind of civilization, one built on shared consciousness and unified purpose. The entities had tried to consume the galaxy. Instead, they had forced it to transform into something greater than the sum of its parts. And humanity, once feared and isolated, had led the way. A new dawn. A year after Operation Starbreak, Earth's quantum shield dissolved permanently. The orbital platforms that had maintained humanity's isolation now served as anchors for the galactic quantum network, connecting countless civilizations through shared consciousness. Sarah stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Luna, watching representatives from hundreds of species interact through neural interfaces. The quantum network had evolved beyond its military origins, becoming the foundation of a new interstellar civilization. "The last of the entity fragments have been transformed," Senna reported, her thoughts carrying traces of still unfamiliar emotions. "They exist now as quantum processors, enhancing our network's capabilities." The greatest threat to galactic life had become its greatest tool for advancement. The transformed entities, no longer consuming energy but processing it, served as natural quantum computers of unprecedented power. Neural interface requests are up 300% this cycle, Dr. Wong added. More species are joining the network every day. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had predicted. The quantum network allowed civilizations to share not just knowledge, but experience, culture, and consciousness itself. Barriers that had separated species for millennia dissolved in the face of true understanding. "We were wrong to fear change," Senna admitted, watching a group of young Corellians interfacing with human children, sharing thoughts and memories directly. "Evolution requires risk." Sarah accessed the quantum network, feeling the pulse of 1,000,000,000,000 minds. Humanity's drive to push boundaries, once seen as dangerous, had become the catalyst for a transformation greater than anyone could have imagined. The old Galactic Council was gone, replaced by the Neural Assembly, a democracy of shared consciousness where decisions emerged from true consensus. The quantum beacons, now numbering in the millions, maintained a web of connection that spanned the galaxy. New quantum anomalies detected in the Andromeda galaxy, Rodriguez reported. "Similar to our first encounters with the entities." Sarah smiled. "Prepare the fleet. It's time to share what we've learned." The assembled representatives added their approval through the network. The transformed galaxy was ready to face new challenges, not as separate species, but as a unified consciousness that preserved and celebrated individual diversity. Humanity had returned to the stars not as conquerors or outcasts, but as teachers, guides, and equals. Their greatest fear, the loss of individuality in connected consciousness, had proven unfounded. Instead, the quantum network had enhanced what made each species unique while creating something greater than its parts. As the first ships prepared to leave for Andromeda, Sarah felt the combined hope of countless beings flowing through the network. The galaxy had faced extinction and emerged transformed. Whatever waited in the darkness between galaxies, they would face it together. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. And somewhere in the quantum network, in the space between thoughts, the transformed entities pulsed with new purpose, proof that even the darkest force could be changed by the light of shared consciousness. The galaxy wasn't just saved, it was reborn.